royal order of Queen Charlotte, we call the bravest knights of the crown. The fortress is under siege. Our enemy is near. Make ready the army. Upwards of 70,000 strong shall fight to the death. Bring me the knights of the crown table.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Knights of the Crown Table podcast. As usual, I'm Myles here with Matt.
Hey guys, what's going on? Good to be back. And Myles, the Crown Table is growing.
It is growing.
We got another night at the Crown Table.
Yes, we do. So the new knight is Paul.
Hey, how's everybody going right now?
And then
Good.
Great.
Pretty good. And then you heard him answer there. Kyle is back with us again.
Thank you guys. Appreciate being back.
And we are going to dive right in here to our overreactions, but really excited about this group, guys. But first off, the first overreaction we've got is Enzo isn't scoring at the same rate as Swiderski from last season, so Enzo needs to be benched. So, Matt, what are you thinking about that?
So this is a no for me. Enzo's working hard, and I just think we haven't provided him with the service that he needs. Because when he gets the service, like we saw Jalen Lindsey, that ball, he puts it away. If you give him that, if you give him the service he needs. So, if we start doing that, no telling how many goals he can score. And he works hard in other ways, in pressing, things like that. So no, you don't bench him. And somebody else may have the numbers, but let's see. Yeah, and he probably would have had a goal against Red Bulls if not for the deflection and the own goal. So that would have put him at I believe 3 goals on the season. So yeah, that's a no for me. Kyle, what do you think about that?
I completely agree with everything you say. He is, other than maybe Irwin and now maybe Melo, he seems like he's our best option at least getting the ball to the goal, getting a shot on the goal. I think benching him right now sends completely the wrong message. I know like the overreaction says he's not scoring at the same rate as Swiderski from last season. We're not, as a team, scoring at anywhere near the rate that we should be scoring at, much less the rate that we were scoring at, a year ago. For me, it's just a simple no, that's not happening. He's got to be out there. Paul, what are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I think the same thing as you guys. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even talking about that. How many goals has Karol Swiderski scored this year? Scored 0, right? He's actually scored more goals for Poland, but he hasn't really done anything for us. I think Enzo's actually been playing hard. He's been getting in the box. He's been drawing fouls. He's played aggressive. Look, like you said, he would have had 3 goals if it wasn't for the own goal. I think actually Enzo should put the greedy goggles on and take more shots. I remember in the last game, there was a play in the second half where there was a great pass to him in the box. I believe Vargas gave it to him. He turned the defender, turned in. He could have shot it or posted the left foot. And instead, he turned back and passed it outside the box. Kinsey Gaines took a shot, went to outer space. I think that Enzo's doing fine right now. I think it's absurd. I mean, we remember this time last year, or maybe a little bit further, when we sacked MAR. Everybody was ready to sack Swiderski. And now we're trying to compare Petty to him. I think it's ridiculous. What do you think, Myles?
Yeah, I agree. I think you all have pretty much said everything. Is that Enzo, to me, he seems like a lethal goal scorer. I mean, I know that he hasn't scored that much, but every goal that I've seen him score is probably a goal in the top 5 leagues anyway. He's just, I feel like everything he does is quality. Like the header versus St. Louis was amazing. And just going around the keeper in the other game where he scored the goal, I can't remember off the top of my head for some reason. But
Orlando?
Yes, yeah, Orlando. I feel like both of those are going to be a goal any league that you put him in. And one thing I will say is I don't feel like he gets the ball enough because we're just not getting it to him. But that kind of brings me to the next overreaction because I think the perfect person that would be able to get that to him is Vinicius Melo. But what's that overreaction we got on him, Matt?
So the second overreaction is Vinicius Melo needs to go straight to the starting 11, and I don't even really know if that's really an overreaction. What do you think, Kyle?
This is one of the ones I agree with. I mean, we've put Brant Bonico at left back, and we've put people on the back line that probably shouldn't have been there. Latangio's messed with the lineup every which way he could think of. Why not try Vinicius Melo in the starting 11? When you watched that game last week, as soon as he came on, and I know Ben Bender came on right there with him, but as soon as he came on, it was like a light switch flipped. And we went from being back on our heels for most of our possession to a legitimate attack at the goal. And he had some absolutely amazing balls where he put them right where they needed to be. And, it just changed the way the game was going. So, I mean, for me, that's not an overreaction. That's hey, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. What are you thinking about that, Paul?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I'm not 100% sure I'd put him in the starting 11 right away. I really like the spark that he gave for us off the bench. Like you said, a light switch came on. He was juking guys right out of their cleats. He was creative. That pass that he made, the long ball to Vargas, which ended up at the own goal, I mean, that was a tremendous pass, right? I don't think half of our team can make the pass. And he's been playing in the same position that we had Juzwiak playing in, who's been absolutely worthless for us. So I'd like to see him kind of inch his way into the lineup. And then if he starts, by this summer, I'm fine with that too. I don't want to overrush him. I know it took him some time to get here. The last thing that you want to do is take a guy and throw him in that starting position and put the weight of the world on his shoulders, and then he's just trying to do a little, too much, right? I think it's natural for sports fans to see a player does really good in their first game and you're instantly, on their bandwagon. And then over time, as you get the full picture, you think, okay, maybe I overreacted at first. But look, right now, we're don't have a lot of points, right? We're looking at a game this weekend that we may not even win, so I'm willing to kind of try anything at this point.
So before you move, are you kind of looking at him in that super sub role, kind of like Shinishiki was last year, or he kind of served every once in a while, coming on for those last few minutes trying to get that goal before we ever just throw him in there, is what you're saying, right? That super sub.
It would be the ideal situation, but I can't really trust Lattanzio either because we all know he waits forever to make subs, and sometimes he makes the wrong subs, right? So who knows when he's going to put it in. Ideally, it would be great to see him right around the 60th minute, bring him in for that spark, kind of when other teams are starting to get tired, bring him in, let him be a menace. People are chasing him around. They're fouling him. They're getting frustrated. That's how I would do it. But right now, our team is kind of in the dump, so to speak. So if we need him to start, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
Myles, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, you with the follow-up question, you brought up the point I was going to bring up, the fact that I would love to see him come in as that super sub, but I feel like Lattanzio just does not sub until the 85th minute, and it's too late, and it's you see a couple brilliant plays, and you're like, why could we have not had 30 or even 20 minutes? I'll take 20 for now if that's all he wants to do, but just give us something to just give us that spark. And I feel like we just really need what Vinicius Melo did. It was something fresh. It was something that I would like to see him in that starting 11, but just because I don't know if he'll get a chance to come back in. Lattanzio, as we've talked about, has that history of not wanting to put in a sub, and even when he does sub, it's not necessarily the right person. And kind of speaking to that, it's just I feel like Vinicius Melo currently, with the injury statuses and everything, that's kind of the creative person for us right now. But what were you thinking, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I had yes, Melo should go straight to the starting 11, but Paul kind of Paul kind of has made me rethink that a little bit. With his comments, which yeah, you think about the spark that he brought in to the team. So it's like, do you bring him in as the spark when you need it, or do you get your best 11 on the field for the first half? And I'm not really sure what the answer is to that question, but yeah, I mean, before he should go to the starting 11 just based on his performance. But that is one game, and then next game he could look like trash. Who knows? Hopefully not, but yeah, I mean, I was listening to Christian Latanzio's interview, and yeah, he came on to provided a spark. Latanzio said he always has a good attitude. Like he's an introvert, and he said he thinks there's a lot more to come from Vinny. So hopefully we can keep him healthy, because he's dangerous, just like Vargas is, creative, and we need that creativity. So yeah, I mean, I originally had that, but Paul did make me kind of go back and rethink. I don't know. What do you guys think about that as far as, getting your best 11 out on the field to start? Or do we need him to be, a sub that comes on and gives us, a jolt?
Really, there's kind of 4 things that the manager has to get correct every game, right? He has to get the starting lineup correct. He has to get the tactics correct. He has to get the formation correct, and he has to get the subs correct. And you always want to have those subs that can change the game, because a lot of times you see what happens. You have injuries. You have players get tired. You have players who aren't in the right formation, who aren't working out. Maybe they're getting exploited in the counterattack. There's a lot of different things going on. And sometimes we want to do the exploiting too. And you saw when Vinicius Bello came in, he changed the entire game. He was creative. I almost think that New York didn't even expect him to come play. They probably didn't even know really who he was, right? I mean, he's kind of just been parked on our bench for quite some time. I believe when MAR first got him, he was talking about, hey, this is a really special player that's down in the academy level or whatever in Brazil, and he's going to do big things in MLS. And unfortunately, he went through his struggles before he could make it onto the pitch. So I'd like to see him as a sub. I think it, kind of creates that spark off the bench. But like I said, it's tough because we're not in the best spot right now either. Our starting level's kind of in shambles. So that's my opinion on it.
Gotcha.
I agree with that. I think the I think we struggle playing from behind too. So that's kind of why I'm leaning more towards starting 11. Is where, like, if he can just ball out for like that 60 minutes and then we make a sub for him, then I think that we can do that. When he's back healthy, I think like Westwood is going to be a big part of the distribution of ball. But I think for now, I give Vinicius a chance. I don't feel like we have a lot to lose. I kind of don't expect a lot of great things this weekend, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen. But in the MLS, anything can happen. But I would love to see more of him.
Oh, I'd definitely love to see more of him. Just like Paul was talking about earlier. It's on Latanzio to get him out there earlier than the 80th minute.
Right.
He's got to be out there. I'd love to see him 60, 65 minutes. If he's going to be that super sub, and at least get some burn to when he can actually affect some change and not just coming in to give someone a breather at the end of the game so they're not getting injured for the next one. It'd be nice to see him more than just, the last few minutes of a match.
You want him to sub in to win.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just touching on that. I mean, you want to bring him in as a sub because you're trying to change the game, not just, I need to make a player, change here just because this guy's winded and I want to rest him. I want to be aggressive and try to win the game. I was actually disappointed with Latanzio the last game because he actually took out Santos and he put in Bender. Look, I like Bender. I have no problem with it. But Santos was having a tremendous second half. And I really wanted to win the game. We still had a good 15 minutes left when Bender came in. I think I would have taken out maybe Bronico and switch in for a Bender to give us more attack. But it seemed like, Latanzio was just like, oh, he looks a little tired. Let me just bring somebody else in because we got more games. And I'm like, I want to win this game. I'm not sure that he wanted to win the game. I couldn't really figure that out there.
And to add to that, I think that's very important because that substitute was in the 81st minute, and it kind of disrupted us. I'm sure that anybody that watches that game, because I'm just looking here, but it was the 68th minute when Vinicius Melo came on, and it was like we were instantly a completely different team. We were playing ahead. We were finally getting into their attacking third because, we had that crazy possession that whole game, but, we were not doing anything in the attacking third. We could not get any kind of shot on goal or anything, but when he was there, the ball was being placed. And, the pass that led to the own goal was one of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen by anybody in Charlotte, by a mile. And it was just that change of taking out Santos, who had an amazing second half, like you said. I feel like that kind of disrupted more, and maybe that was the reason we didn't get that second winning goal, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was almost deflating. In fact, I was shocked. When I saw Bender coming in, I thought, oh, okay, hey, we're bringing another attacker on. This is going to be good. But then I saw Santos come out. I couldn't figure out why he was taking him out. I mean, Santos looked all cheery coming out of the game, so it's not like he was tired or injured or anything. But, yeah, I mean, Bender also had a great ball right to Jalen Lindsey. Remember near the end where he kind of saved it from going out, and, Lindsey hit the header way over. So you could see that he was creative, but it would have been nice to have him and Santos at the same time. We probably could have won the game.
Agreed.
Yeah, if Jalen would have if he would have put that header away, that would have been awesome.
Right.
Would have been the winner.
For sure.
Oh, what could have been?
Well, that talking about Bender, that actually does lead us into our next overreaction. This one just kind of shows how I know sports fans, we go back and forth, so we're so fluid. We go back and forth so much. So this one was after Orlando. It was, or after one of the games, it was we got to sell Bender. We got to get rid of him. The guy's not worth it. It's kind of like a lot of people were with Bronico. Just got to get rid of him. And then after the a few minutes he came in for that New York Red Bulls game, it was, all right, this kid's got to get back in the starting lineup. We've got to see more of him. We've got to see him. He should be starting again. And then those that watched the Crown Legacy game and what I was seeing on Twitter and Facebook was, okay, this kid's not worth the jersey. He's got to go back. We got to bump him down. I mean, this kid even needs to go find him a NASL team to go play for. It was all over the board in the span of 2 to 3 weeks for Ben. So, Paul, touching back on what we just said, where do you think he's fitting in right now? Is he still part of that subgroup, or do you think he should be back in that starting lineup?
Yeah, I actually think he probably should be part of the subgroup. He's another good player that comes in and brings a lot of energy in the second half. The whole thing with, selling him, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? We just drafted the guy last year. He was our first overall pick. He was one of the best players in college at Maryland. He comes here. He had 3 goals last year. We all remember he scored in the very first win against New England last year that we had in club history. So, no, this is not a guy I want to chase off from the team. He's a young player. He's American. He has a bright future. Playing with the Crown FC, it's a little bit different, right? So when you go to that level, you got a lot of developmental players, right? There's going to be players that are never even going to touch the MLS pitch. He's got brand new teammates, people he doesn't know. He just played, 15 minutes in the game before. Now he's supposed to go play all these minutes in that game. It's gonna be difficult. Sometimes in these what we call like minor leagues here in America, really second, third divisions of soccer, looks a mess for the first few weeks. You can't really judge players in that league very well because, again, you're playing with players that are barely professionals. So, but what he's done for Charlotte, you saw how creative he was. You saw the ball that he got to Lindsey. Lindsey probably should have put that away. So, no, I would not sell Ben Bender. I would definitely keep him, and I hope that he will have long-term plans here. What do you think about that, Myles?
Yeah, I agree. I like Bender. I think he's kind of a fan favorite almost. He's like that first draft pick that just like everybody just I don't know. They cling to him. Everybody's obsessed with the hair until he cut it. Maybe that's the problem. But he's a developmental piece. We're not expecting him to come in and start right away. We're just hoping that he'll get there. So I see a lot more of this where people are going to say this. I think it's ridiculous to sell him. I agree with that. But I think there's going to be a lot of him coming on as a sub, probably like in the 80th minute like he did, sadly. But like if somebody's down, I could see him coming in and stuff like that. But I also imagine seeing him a lot in the Crown Legacy games like we did. He started in the first game they had the other day. So maybe we'll see him tomorrow or today, depending on when you listen to this. But with Crown Legacy, I'm hoping he does develop, though, because I will think about the moment where he went and kicked the corner flag, forever. That was one of the funniest and start of Charlotte moments, right? It's like we finally have our team, and I think about that moment. But yeah, it was great. But Matt, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, well, so being real here, I actually messed this one up because I thought it was talking about Bronico. So
Gotcha.
I had Bronico on the brain for the third overreaction. So I don't know what I was looking at, but as far as Bender goes, I agree. I agree with or with you guys, right? I agree with Paul. I mean, if we're gonna sell, you're telling me. I mean, Bender has scored with us, right? So, and then Juzwiak hasn't. So,
Right.
if we're not getting rid of Juzwiak, you better not get rid of Bender. So,
right, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, and he's young, and so I agree with what you guys are saying about Ben. Just I would like him to be a little bit more physical. And maybe that's not like his game, but do you guys think he, sometimes maybe, or do you want him to be more more physical, or have a little bit more fire? I don't know. Or is that just he's young and still learning?
Well, I think he's going to have to. I think they're going to, he's already showing that when he goes towards the middle a lot of times and he tries to challenge for some of these balls, he's just going to get bullied. He's going to get beat up. He's got to get a little more physical on his end of the ball. He's got to be able to, withstand some of that, or they're going to straight up attack him every time he's in the middle. And I think, honestly, him playing with this, again, it's the Crown Legacy, but it's him getting some minutes, and it's not, just, there are first teamers out there for, some other MLS teams, so he's going to see some of those guys, but it's still just getting that live action burn that's going to be good for him if he can, start to pick up some of those habits that he's going to need in with the first team. But yeah, I'm not on the bandwagon of we got to get rid of him, or we've even got to, bench him completely and only put him on the Crown Legacy. I still think he's got a very valuable role within the team, at the first level, at the highest level, because like we've been saying, he provides that spark. He is a fan favorite. It's way too early to completely write him off already. We've got to stick with the young guns right now.
And why would we get rid of him anyways? I mean, we need all the pieces that we can, and we're going to
Exactly.
sell him. What are we going to do? We're going to trade him for $50,000 general allocation money? I mean, it's ridiculous,
Right.
I mean, you want to keep that piece, Look, last year when I was watching him, I was really impressed with him, and I was thinking, okay, this is that player that you guys know every few years when they play the Gold Cup, they kind of bring that like C roster every now and then, right? It's not Pulisic and these guys. It's kind of like the guys you don't even know about, but they're all MLS players. And I'm like, okay, this is a chance for maybe him to get that type of spot, So there's potential in this guy. The last thing we want to do is just run him out of town. It would be unnecessary.
Well,
Right.
I mean, if we sold off every player that we think about every week, everybody that says, "Oh, we should sell him off," we'd have like what Melanda and maybe Nuno and Westwood at this point, because at some point in time, everybody's been told to be sold off. So, I mean, obviously, there's no reason to sell him off. It's just a crazy overreaction. But I do want to get us into the next one, Paul. And you had a different spin on this one than we did last week. We all gushed about Brant Bronico and his role on this team and how he was. I think I even used the word the heartbeat of the team, the motor, the engine. And then Brant went out this week and had him a different game than we all thought he would have. My question was, for me, I needed to rethink that. Was I wrong about Brent Bronico? And I may be leaning more towards that. Yeah, it's time we start looking in a different direction there. What were your thoughts about that, Paul?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely wrong on that, and I don't think that's like a dig against you. I was actually listening to the podcast in my car, and I kept pausing it because I was like, all right, I'm going to come through and talk to you guys right now about this, but we weren't live. I'm hearing the complete opposite reaction in my head, basically. Brent Bronico has not been playing great. I mean, you're talking about a guy that'll get the ball, he'll pass it out of bounds, come back in, he maybe he gets the ball again, then he passes it right to the other team. He fouls like crazy. Look, we all saw what he did where he stamped on the guy's shin. He got really lucky he did not get a red card in that game. I think if that foul occurs a little bit later in the game, he's definitely going to be sent off, right? He's going to be suspended for the next game against Toronto. We kind of dodged a bullet for that because at least we still get to put 11 guys in the field. So it's not like we had to play against 10 people in the New York game. That would have been detrimental to our team because we have a hard time sometimes even playing with 11.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's that great of a player. You're talking about a guy that's basically probably going to be in the USL in the next couple of years. I mean, he's played over 100 games in Major League Soccer. You look at when he played with the Chicago Fire, their last two seasons, they finished 17th and 20th. You look where he's at now. We missed the playoffs last year. We're pretty far down the table. I mean, if that's the heartbeat of your team, I mean, we need to get a heart transplant or something. I mean, he's not working for me. That's my personal take on him. What do you think about that, Myles?
I actually kind of have a little bit of hope for him. I know that you got like a lot of, and I think last week's was a bit of an outlier overall, just because I think that not necessarily that he's like a great player, but I do think he's like kind of like that leadership almost in a locker room kind of deal. And I know that like I think that it was put more on him when it wasn't necessarily his fault. He played very reckless, I'll give you that. I think he should have had a red card, honestly, and the ban is justified, but I think that we really miss Westwood. And I think that made our midfield look a lot worse than it really is. And I also think that we think too much about his left back games, and that's contributing to it. I think he had a pretty decent midfield game previously, but when he was in left back, I don't even want to talk about those because those were absolutely terrible games. But in the midfield, I don't think he's as bad. I think he can play that role. Now, there are some people I would rather see on the field than him, but I definitely see that, like, we were wrong about how good he was. That's for sure. Like, he's not as good as we had hoped, but I'm not giving up on him. Okay, I still have hope for Bronico, just to kind of get it right, you know. But I do see what you're saying. I do think that there's the potential that this is just a terrible situation and he may not be as good, but I still have hope for Brant Bronico. But what about you, Matt? Where you fall in on this Bronico madness?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I have. I mean, let's say, I mean, we could have been, or he had a bad game. You know, everybody knows that. I think when he has good games, I just think Yeah, I mean, I'm like you, Miles. I'm not ready to write him off yet. But maybe this was a good thing for him to, like just sit down, chill out, like, because we can't be having that, the reckless challenges and stuff like that, especially, if we can't even get the job done with 11 players on the field. So we got to be smarter. But I mean, he works hard, and I think, I don't know if we can. I don't know if I can say, we're wrong. So, I think he listened to the podcast, and maybe that put too much pressure on him. But what do you guys think? I mean, has he had a tough stretch of games, or is this a trend? Asking anybody.
Well, 10 years ago, right, the MLS was a lot different. It's gotten so much better at this point. Like, we look at our non-designated players, right? We got guys like Vargas, we got Bender, we got Mello, we got guys like Nuno Santos. We've been talking about these guys. We got Brant Bronico, right? I'd rather have Ashley Westwood, obviously. The guy's played in the Premier League. He's played at the highest level, right? You can tell there's a huge difference when Westwood's on the ball compared to Bronico. Bronico is reckless in the last game, and he doesn't really provide a lot of value for us. 10 years ago, that type of player was a dime a dozen in the MLS, but the league is just so much better. You can see why he's playing on bad teams, because on good teams, he doesn't even make the roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're serious about going forward if he kind of just disappears over time.
Yeah, I mean, he's had. I can't go back and tell you, like, all of the games or whatever, but I mean, he has had some good games, right? Like, where you're like, oh, he made a nice run or whatever. Now, I mean, does he need to start, or does he need to come off the bench? I'm not ready to say. I'm not ready to be done with him just yet. Maybe this could be a good thing, and that he, sits out, and maybe he's not so reckless, moving forward. But, Kyle, what do you think about all that?
I think a lot of people are wanting to hold on to Brant again because he's one of those hometown kids. He's, the mayor. He is Bronny Bro. He is, a Charlotte 49er. He's that hometown kid that everybody wants to hold on to. And there's a little bit of that nostalgia, a little bit of that, that connection there that they just don't want to let go. But, I there's a part of me that wants to hold out hope for him, but there's also that big part of me that wants to win the games. And, Brant had been getting there had been times he had gotten a reputation for himself for being a little too aggressive at times and a little over the top. And I think that finally, caught up to him. And like Paul was saying, we can't have that. We can't go down a man. We can't go down to 10 because he, recklessly went studs up against somebody's shin. It's going to be more of a liability than an asset at that point in time. So, again, we've made so many roster moves, as far as starting 11 goes. Maybe it's time we see him take a step back and we find someone else that can fill that role. I'm hoping there's somebody on there that can come out and at least give us the spark of the energy that he has without the extra above and beyond type stuff.
Right.
I'll tell you what, he's the heartbeat of the team, and he's that guy. Let's give him the captain's armband for Crown SC. We'll make him the guy down there, and he can work with the developmental guys. How's that sound?
I like that idea. I do like that. Make him a captain on Crown Legacy. See what happens. See what he does when it becomes his team. Because and you bring up a good point. We always, last week I was saying the heartbeat of the team, that kind of stuff. Has he been given the armband at all yet in the 2 years? Has he had it? Do you remember?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. I'll have to look that up.
Because I know Fuchs had it most of the year last year, did he not?
Yeah.
And see, he was kind of this same role. And again, I know, it's a little bit different this year. But Fuchs had that armband most of the year. If BB13, if he's that same way, what would be keeping him from having that captain's armband this year? Maybe Latanzio doesn't see him the same way. Maybe he's just a hard worker, and we've kind of got that wrong impression just because he is that hometown Charlotte 49er.
I hope that Christian Latanzio doesn't see him the same way as Christian Fuchs, because Fuchs won the Premier League with Leicester City. We're talking about a completely different level player than Brant Bronico, right?
Right.
Yep.
I don't think Bronico is the same because Westwood came in. Westwood's been the captain mostly now, right? Like when he's in, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong there, but.
Well, yeah, Westwood and King Harrison have kind of shared that this year.
So,
and Westwood came in and took it pretty much game one, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like pretty much the same position, and he's already overtook Brant Bronico. So, maybe that's a red flag in regards to Bronico there. I know he's kind of integrated with the community, of course, and like talking about him being like that homegrown style player. And I am 100%. I want to win championships and trophies, and I don't care who it's with, right? As long as it's like with Charlotte. And I'm okay, like, if he's not the guy. I just still have a little bit of hope that, like, maybe he can do something. But do you think that he would be okay with going down to Crown Legacy? Or because I'll be honest with you, if I'm a competitive player and I'm told to go down to that, I'm almost going to take it as a slap in the face. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying it's just like it's going to hurt his ego. You know what I'm saying? But what do y'all think?
Oh, we're gonna need. Even though we're talking about sending him down there as a captain, we're gonna come up to the point where we're gonna be playing a lot of games pretty soon, right? You're gonna start having these weekday games where you're playing in the United States Open Cup. You're also gonna be playing in the Leagues Cup against the Mexican teams coming up pretty soon. So we're gonna need a lot of depth. So we got to think about, okay, if we send him down, who is going to be playing instead of him, right? We got to make sure that our roster here is fixed before we go and kind of throw him off to the side. I'm thinking like long term, he really doesn't cut it.
Right.
So, what is our solution? Like as far as, who else do we start? You got Westwood, you got Jones, you got Nuno. Do we need to bring in another midfielder?
As soon as we get rid of Juziak, we should. I think this summer we should try to find a way to sell him at the next transfer window and we need to free up that designated player spot. All right, like the guy, he's not a designated player in this league, right? When he was playing with Derby County, he wasn't very good there. They got relegated to League One. He comes over here, he kind of just doesn't do a whole lot of anything. I think you could kind of sum up his entire career. You guys remember a couple games ago where he dribbled the ball through the goal line, right? He dribbled it right on out with just a horrible touch. I think that kind of just sums up the player that he is. The only kind of highlight that I remember from the guy is he scored the last penalty in the friendly game against Chelsea, and the fireworks went off. That's about it, right? That's kind of all he's done for us that I can remember. And you got to get the designated players right in this league, right? If you think about it, they are the game changers. If you look at some of the designated players that are on other teams, they got some heavy hitters. Look who we're about to go play against.
Right.
Against Toronto on Saturday, right? They got guys like Bernadette. I know Insigne is injured, but they got some real-time players, right? And you look across the league, and other teams have these star players. Even when they don't have star players, you look at St. Louis. They identified that Brazilian striker who's just been amazing, Klaus or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
been phenomenal, right? Fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they saw with Uzviak. I mean, if he's a DP, then to me, Vargas should be a DP. If Melo keeps playing like that, I mean, he's a DP. So, yeah, I don't, and that kind of leads into the fifth overreaction. But I don't know if Paul, if you had more on the BB13 situation.
I mean, I think we've talked about him to death at this point. I
Yeah.
can keep going. I can build Uzviak if you like.
I mean, yeah.
Now I will say some of the best fire I saw out of Juzwiak this year was what was it Enzo that went out of bounds and the guy threw the ball off of him and you thought, man, Juzwiak was going to go over there and just lay into him. Yeah, he was going to lay into him. It was like, whoa, where's this fire been at?
Right, yeah. Why don't you use that to, like, light a fire under your ass to get in the lineup or something? Like, do something. Like, do we think Swiderski put in a good word and it kind of screwed us over for putting Uzviak? You think Swiderski tried to get Uzviak there?
No, when the team was first formed, they put in, I guess his name's Cornetta or whatever. Is that how you say it? Cornetta, the guy that's like in charge of like the, what is he, president, general manager? What was he? Help me out with this. When he
I think it's president.
He's the sporting director, right?
Sporting director. There you go.
Oh, okay.
And he came from the Eredivisie, and he was talking about how he's going to go to Europe and identify all these players. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's going to be really good. But then he was talking about he's going to go to, like, you know, the second division in Poland, and we got, you know, Jan Sobozinski from there. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Why are we going to that level? Let's go to the championship. Let's go to, you know, maybe the French second division. Why are we looking at, like, these ridiculous second divisions? And then you see those players come over here. I mean, look, he originally was playing in Poland, right? He came through the exact same academy that Karol Swiderski came through. I believe it's called Lech Poznan or something like that. I don't speak Polish, so I'm not sure how to pronunciate it. But he was supposed to be, you know, a kind of a high-rated player. If you go back, I remember back on, I think it was FIFA 17, he was one of those exciting prospects, was Juzwiak. And, you know, he gets his time, he gets to Derby County, and they get relegated, and he's pretty much worthless there, you know? And then he comes over here. I was never even expected to be anything. I was shocked he was a designated player because, you know, when a guy's a designated player, it doesn't mean like they're going to be the ill player. It's more that you got that salary that's really high and it only has a certain cap hit, right? It's like $400,000 or $500,000, right? Mm-hmm. So you can pay the guy, you know, whatever you want, $5-6 million, and it doesn't take that cap hit, but you're expecting something out of that in return. Now I'm like, oh, what are we even paying this guy, right? We're probably paying him more than we're paying of our, you know, star players, and this guy is below average.
Right, you can't consistently overpay, like, or you can't be consistently outplayed as a DP by people around you. Like, the fact that he's struggling to get into a starting midfield when, like, there's players out for injury, like, he can't get into that lineup and he's a DP. Like, what does that say about him, you know? I mean, with no Swiderski, no Westwood, he was, like, not even, I guess, considered. Because, I mean, they didn't even bring him on as a sub. They brought Bender in over him. Mm-hmm. So, like, I guess it was warming up, but that was the closest he's seen. And then, of course, like, with the Dolkin where he got mad at him for the 2 seconds. But he's just not worth it. And, like, we talked about the stat before, no goals since he's been here. And now he's not even getting called up for Poland to do work there. So
I think it might be a case of also we're kind of stuck with him, right? Because you want to get rid of a player, but unless another team wants him, it's hard to get rid of him, you know? Right. I'd love to send him to another MLS team, but we just don't want a frequent designated player spot for it. So you got to find a way to get him back over to Europe. And who's going to want the guy? He's probably making a higher salary here than he'll make at one of these teams over there in one of these lesser divisions. So it's frustrating because designated player spot that we got completely wrong, and we need it to be right.
Oh man, yeah. I just that was a big swing and a miss by the front office for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of designated players, I was actually talking to Matt the other night, and we were talking about different players over in Europe that we'd like to see come over. And if I'm seeing it, surely the sporting director has to see it, right? You see a guy that's doing really well in the championship in England, doesn't do good in the Premier League, but he kills it at the championship level. He's probably going to be able to come to Major League Soccer and be pretty good, right? Let's be honest. If they're poor in the championship, they're probably not going to be very good over here, right?
Right.
And that's why I was bringing up like a guy like Adam Armstrong. He's playing right now for Southampton. He's their number 9. The guy has 3 goals in 2 years right now in the Premier League. He's not cutting it. That team's about to get relegated, so he's going to go back to the championship where he spent 7 seasons, 4 with teams like Blackburn Rovers and Coventry City. Even in League One, he was in, and he absolutely murdered those leagues. I mean, the guy had 28 goals his last year in the championship. It's a guy who's 26. Right? He could easily come here and be a designated player, probably get paid more than he's going to get paid over the championship. Why can't we go get players like that?
We should have got Aaron Ramsey last year. Can't change my mind on that one.
Yeah, and you see a lot of designated players in these leagues. What we would say they're washed up European players. Those guys come over here and kill this league, right? Chicharito comes over and smokes it, right? You see these guys come over. Kaká at the end of his career, he was phenomenal here in the MLS, right? I would love to get somebody like Aaron Ramsey. And I remember talking to a lot of Charlotte fans, and they're like, oh, no, he's terrible. He's terrible. Yeah, he might be terrible in the Premier League, but he's to come over here and absolutely crush it in Major League Soccer. You have to remember, it's a completely different level, right? Like Ricky Puig could even make the field in Barcelona, and he goes instantly to the starting 11 over at LA Galaxy, right? I mean, it's a huge difference in level.
Who just did somebody get released? Who was it? Man, who was it got released or let go from Sevilla? Sorry, I'm going off on a rail here. Let me see real quick.
I'm not sure. I know. Didn't they get like Isco? That was someone that I.
Oh, it might have been Isco. Yeah, let's sign him.
I would
Real
love to have
Madrid
him. Yeah.
So you get these players that are at the end of their career in Europe, right? They have nothing else to win. They really can't play at the highest level. I mean, I'll tell you a player that in a couple years, he has MLS written all over him, right? And that's Romelu Lukaku. He's kind of at the end of his career in Europe, right? You see, he can't even make the bench at Chelsea. He goes back to Inter. He's not doing a whole lot. You know, he's probably got 2 more years there. That guy over here would be an absolute all-star, right? Seems like the only place the guy scores for is Belgium. If you saw the game against Germany, he had a fantastic goal. He can't replicate that at the club level over there. But when you come over here and watch him, he would. I mean, you think Klaus is good at St. Louis City? This guy's even bigger. I mean, he would absolutely dominate this league.
Or Lukaku, yeah, I could see him just being a monster over here.
Yeah, and it's not somebody who's coming right now, but you're kind of like looking for, all right, who's somebody in the next 2-3 years that could come over? I think Charlotte should really kind of network with these people. Talk to some of these guys and say, hey, look, I got this spot waiting for you. I know you want to maybe win another Serie A trophy or Super Cup or whatever over there and whatever league you're in. But, when things aren't working out anymore, I got the spot for you over here, kind of make those networks. Because we've got to plan ahead. Can't let teams like Atlanta and New York and all these big market teams just crush us right out of it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it was Sevilla with Isco, but I don't know. Is that like a dream that he would ever come here?
I think it's possible for the right amount of money because, like, just as an example, Ronaldo, before he went to the Saudi Arabian league, or no, it was the Qatarian league. Whatever league
Saudi Arabia.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. So he almost considered going to Sporting Kansas City. They said it was actually really close, and like one of the reasons that they thought about it was because of, and I know this is different football, but because of like the market with Patrick Mahomes and how well like he did with like merchandise and like his own brand and stuff like that. And they were thinking like, this is a smaller market. Maybe we can bring Ronaldo here and it would work just as well. And it came close, but he decided not in the end. But I mean, if it's that close, and then like rumors of like Messi and stuff, like I think it's possible, but money's gonna have to be thrown, and ticket prices are going to go up. That's what's going. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Lukaku. Come on. Current team is Inter Milan. You know, Lutanzio is Italian, right? So
Yeah.
makes sense.
We're going to have to wait a couple more years because he's still under contract, and I believe Chelsea paid some $50 million to get him, right, in transfer fees. We're going to have to wait a little bit more. I believe he's 29, probably be 30 this year. So when he's 32, I mean, first you're going to play over there, right? It seems like every team he goes to, he only wants to play for big clubs over there. Well, that's not going to happen, right? He needs to find a little bit smaller club to go to, and are they going to be able to offer the same money that he can make as a designated player in Major League Soccer? So you kind of got to look at the future on that. And if you're not going to go that route, then look at some of these other players that are really, kicking butt, in the championship or something like at that level that, can't really play at the top level. Send those guys over here or go to South America and look for more of the competitors. But I would like to have a big name player on the team. It kind of brings that appeal to it. It seems like every team but us has it at this point, right?
Yeah. So Zoran, if you're listening, just take this in here.
Right.
I mean, could you guys have ever imagined a decade ago that Gareth Bale would have been over here? I mean, that guy was at the top of his game at one point with Tottenham and with Real Madrid. I mean, he was doing big things, right? $100 million transfers and all that. And then here he is last year winning the cup with the LAFC. So, I mean, anything's possible. There's no name that's really too big, except for, I don't know about Cristiano Ronaldo coming. He was really good friends with Chad Ochocinco, who actually tried out for Sporting Kansas City like a decade ago and was absolutely terrible at it. So maybe there's some kind of connection there with it, getting him to go to Kansas City. I don't even know. But obviously he chased the money, right? And he went to Saudi Arabia. The league's a complete joke. I mean, you watch the game where he scored 4 goals. It's like, right? I've been sure, Twardowski probably scores those 4 goals too. I mean, they weren't that great, right?
Right. It's not a legacy thing at that point. It's just for money.
Exactly. And you see that the Saudis are kind of buying everything right now, right? They're buying WWE and they're buying, all these big teams. So, of course, they had the money to lure him over. And, good for him. I mean, he might as well get paid while he could still play. And Lionel Messi, he's the same thing. This summer he's going to leave Paris. And if Barcelona could get their finances together, he'll probably go there, right? They're talking about paying him $36 million a year. Is he going to come to Major League Soccer and make that? I don't think so. What do you guys think about that whole thing about every team having to step in and pay to get Leo Messi over here? What do you think about that?
I mean, it sounds dumb to me. I mean, I understand that, the league would benefit, as far as ticket sales and people won't, flocking to the stadiums to see him and everything like that. But I mean, David Beckham's got enough money, right? Just let him buy him.
Yeah, let the team play for him.
I don't know if you guys saw it. They had put it on the online with Inter Miami's new $70 million facility. Maybe they're trying to lure him in with something like that. It's state of the art. It was amazing.
Right.
I mean, Miami is other than the Hurricanes and
it's South Beach, it's party, it's women, it's the step to Argentina. That's why the guys like Neymar want to go there, and they pay that salary. And would they take it seriously? That's the other thing. I don't want Messi to come over and play for us and he's just going to kind of, have a kick around with the ball. Who wants that, right? I want to win.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think every team should be forced to pay, for somebody that, for another team. It's just stupid.
Yeah, I don't like that, and I don't know if our front office will do something to that regard. But if we're going to talk about our front office, I'll go with the last ever reaction, which is that we should fire everyone from Latanzio up, and that we have the worst one in the MLS. What do you think about that, Matt?
Well, they certainly didn't do themselves any favors, as we've talked about with putting the DP tag on Uzwiak. I can't say they're the worst because I, don't know about the other front offices in the league and the moves that they've made. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ready to fire Latanzio yet. I think he's genuinely a good guy and personable, but aside from that, if we don't start figuring things out, if we don't start seeing, progression and attack and scoring goals, then we're going to have to make a change because our goal this year is to make playoffs. So, if we don't start seeing, those things happen, I mean, he's a good guy, but, this is just a results-driven business, just like basically every other business. Did the front office get it wrong with Carroll? I mean, he's had some, I say moments of magic for us, but has he lived up to the DP title like some, other, if you compare him to other DPs, in their first year with a team or whatever around the league, and maybe somebody out there has that stat, or maybe maybe one of you guys, I'm not sure, but it's like sometimes he has, or great games like the one versus Chicago, where he just pulls a goal from out of nowhere and with the fancy footwork, and you're like, wow. But then it's like other times he disappears. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Kyle, what is your take on this overreaction?
So let's kind of compare Tepper, since he's the big man in charge. Let's kind of compare what he did with the Panthers to Charlotte FC. He comes in with the Panthers. You've got Marty Herney and you've got Ron Rivera there. Ron Rivera doesn't last very long. I think he was there maybe through that next season, something like that, and then he was gone. Marty Herney was there for a few years, and then he was gone. So he starts off here. He's got, Mar, and he's got Cornetta. I guess that's how you pronounce it. He's got those guys in there. They're the coaches that are in there. I guess they were hand selected by Tepper, but Mar doesn't last very long. And if things hold up, Cornetta might not last very long either if things keep going like it is. But you got to think about the next person they brought in, which was Matt Rule. Wasn't much of anything in and of itself. So hopefully this isn't, the next thing that we're seeing here with Latanzio. And just, I really hope that Tepper is not trying to be the Jerry Jones of the MLS, or even the Jerry Jones of the NFL, at that matter, but that's a different subject. I want Tepper to find someone that knows the sport, and I was, maybe thinking that's who he had with Cornetta. I don't know that, that's what he was thinking. I don't know how much he has control over who's here and who's not here, and the decisions that are being made further down. I know you look in Charlotte with Michael Jordan, and he's actually reportedly selling part of his stock in the Hornets, but he had his hands on everything, or a lot of the decisions that were being made there. And a lot of times when Michael obviously has a ton of basketball knowledge, where Tepper, I don't know how deep his soccer knowledge is, but if he's making a lot of these calls, then maybe it's time for him to take a step back and find that sporting director, or find that GM that can make those high quality calls, because it's been proven from his record with the Panthers that some of those decisions he's making at the GM level, or even at the coaching level, haven't been the highest quality, to get those wins. So I'm gonna abstain from voting whether or not it's time for us to just get rid of everybody on up. But I do know that Tepper doesn't have a great track record of always putting in the best of the best at that position. What do you think about that, Paul? Where are your ideas with this front office?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mess right now. I agree with you on a lot of your points. I think Tepper actually is kind of involved with this just to make money. You could tell by how high our tickets are, and he's trying to get these 70,000 people at the stadium, and it doesn't seem like some of our players were paying that much at all. Sometimes I wonder if it's more just let me see how much money I can make to actually put in quality on the field, which kind of sucks. It happens with a lot of owners and a lot of different sports teams. You want to win, and sometimes they just get dollars, and as long as you're seeing that, that green plus, I don't really care. For me, that's frustrating. I'm like, well, why do you even have a team? I would love to see somebody else step in, obviously, and be our general manager or sporting director or whatever, because like I said, with Cornetta, he said that he wanted to go and get these guys from the second division in the Czech Republic and Poland and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're not building a USL team, right? You're building a Major League Soccer team, right? We got to do better than that. We can't sit here and watch, them get Joseph Martinez and Kaká and Chicharito and all these other players that we keep mentioning, right? See Ibrahimovic come over to the league, and we're going to be putting out there some no-name guy that was, sitting on the bench in the Czech Republic, right? I mean, look at Karol Swiderski. He was sitting on the bench in the Greek league, okay? And we said, oh, that's our designated player. That's our guy. Let's go get him. We're going to go get Sergio Ruiz. Yeah, let's go get this guy who's playing in the Canary Islands. It's in the second division in Spain. Never even played at the top flight. Yeah, we're going to make him our first signing. What are we doing, right? It's almost like a joke. Like, I couldn't believe who we were getting. Oh, let's go get this guy, Jan Sobozinski. Yeah, second division in Poland. He's really going to tear it up for us, isn't he? I mean, what are they thinking? Like I said, we're building a Major League Soccer team. We need to get Major League players. The league is so much better. And if that comes down to whoever's making the decision on these players, then that has to be changed. Because right now they've done a poor job at it. I hope Capetti actually turns out really well, right? The guy, he's not that old, right? It seems like he played more winger when he was down in Argentina. We got him now as a kind of our guy. He's number 9. He's in the center. We're expecting big things. Will he score more than 10 goals this year, more than Swiderski? Remains to be seen. I hope so, right? If you think about it, he's kind of like, third away there. But, oh, man, it's frustrating. And then the second part is you get rid of Christian Latanzio. Who's next? Who takes over next? Do you hand the keys to another assistant, or do you say, okay, who's killing it right now, like in the USL? Who's somebody that was a really good former MLS coach that had a lot of success that, maybe they had some conflict with their owner and they decided to leave, or somebody who's doing well in a European league that can maybe bring some players over, right? Or do you try to make a splashy hire? Do you try to say, you go get Greg Berhalter or somebody, I mean, there's different options. You're not going to get Julian Nagelsmann. You're not going to get Conte. You're not going to get these sexy managers that just got fired from big-time jobs because, they're getting paid $20 million over there. There's no way we're going to pay them that over here. So you have to identify somebody. I mean, just firing the manager doesn't do anything if you don't have somebody else lined up next. What do you think, Myles?
We lose Myles.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep going then.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I was trying to see what was. I was talking. I was like, the mic's not moving. Sorry about that. But anyway, I agree with the general manager aspect of things. I think that there's some kind of change that might need to happen. There was one thing. I agree with you on most things, Tepper, except for this offseason, like for the Panthers. I think that man hates losing. I don't think I think he's greedy. He likes to make his money because, I mean, who doesn't like to make money, right? But I think I've seen that competitive part of him that he hated losing, and you have seen the overhaul the Panthers have done this year. I think he could do that with Charlotte because I think that it could happen if they identify the correct person. He also has those deep pockets, so I could see him spending money to do something eventually. But if Latanzio is not it, I think the seat's hot, right? I don't think it's necessarily time to go ahead and just get rid of everybody. But I do think that could be coming soon.
So you're saying we could go out and get Patrick Vieira from Crystal Palace? Is that what you're saying he's going to do?
I mean, I don't know about that, but when he said Berhalter, I actually thought about that. Like when I was thinking Berhalter, and then you said Berhalter, I was like, that might be an option that could happen.
I mean, it's not my first choice, but I was just thinking of different options. Like,
Right.
you know, got to go that route as somebody who knows CONCACAF, right? Who's had success in Major League Soccer, who's obviously not going back to the U.S. Men's national team. I don't think so after all that stuff went down with Reyna.
Right.
Do you look at somebody like that who knows this area and can identify players that, you know, because it also helps with, you know, with the whole international roster spot, it helps having players from CONCACAF here because you can free up those spots for, you know, other players that might be really good from overseas and whatnot. But it's not my first choice, but
yeah,
you know,
not mine either. I just thought that was a good option as well, just because, I mean, it looks like he's got a vacancy at the job aspect, you know, and I don't think he's going to go want to work at McDonald's be a fry cook anytime soon. So I think he's decent. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of him for the United States men's national team. I think he made some not so great decisions, but I think that he's capable of being like an MLS coach and like a functioning one, you know, or at least helping get together a good coaching staff. Because I know he's got connections, right? Because he knows the league, he knows different players, everything like that. I think that he can identify stuff like that. It's just a matter of who's it going to be, you know? But I don't see us hiring somebody from like a big name club like I just don't see it. But I'm hoping that there is some kind of overhaul coming if this year continues to go downhill or if we're not able to make something, but because we need this team to succeed, you know. But
the fans, you know, we're showing up, and you know, the team, we need to see the team and the front office, you know, do the same and like reciprocate, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
yeah, we've never scored a goal when we've had those big crowds. Like, that's terrifying. Like,
except for Chelsea.
it's like we just can't perform in a big name or a big like stadium full of fans. And that's just, oh, that's so frustrating.
Are they putting too much pressure on themselves to try to please the fans at home? You know, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Also, I have kind of a different opinion about this. This is about the supporter section. I kind of feel, and I'm not trying to say, I feel like it's kind of manufactured almost in the sense that it's not necessarily as authentic as it should be. And I feel like that kind of hurts some of the aspect of our league. And the reason I'm saying that is that I don't know about y'all, but I don't feel good about hearing these crazy chants when we're losing 3-0 to Atlanta. Like if I'm watching the broadcast and I'm like, oh, mighty black and blue, and we're down 3-0, it's like, yeah, they're leaving us black and blue, but like, can y'all stop that chant? Like, I mean,
I understand. Like, I understand where. I mean, or if you can still chant, if you can still sing when your team's down, you know, maybe trying to bring them back. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
Yeah, I was at the game, and yeah, we were not having a good time. I wasn't.
Right.
The other people may have been singing, but it was an absolute beatdown. But
it was a disaster. And one thing that we haven't actually talked about that happened in that game is the whole backwards passing. I mean, how many times are we going to get burned?
Oh my gosh.
Passing it back to the keeper, right? And the other team intercepts it and scores an easy goal. I mean, not only did it happen to Burn last game, he almost did it twice. Okay, I believe it was the 78th minute. He did it again, and Bark tried to come out of his box to clear the ball away. Those are daggers when you give up those goals, right? It's bad enough when you're playing with the center back who's 5'6", right? That gets absolutely blown off the ball when he passes it backwards, right? But to do it a second time, oh my goodness. And that's another player who was playing in the championship that was playing on bad teams. that we decided, oh, that's going to work perfect for us?
Yeah, there's like 4 things guaranteed. You got death, you got taxes, you have Charlotte giving up a free goal in the back half, and St. Louis.
Hey, Myles, you're chopping up.
Yeah, we're
Sorry about that. I don't know what's wrong with my mic right now. Y'all go ahead.
You're good.
We could tell what you were saying. You were talking about it's happened in the St. Louis game. It's happened in this game. It's embarrassing. And you look at how many times we pass the ball backwards. You know, I know the whole thing right now in Europe is build out of the back. Everybody wants to be like Manchester City and these teams. But what I don't understand is all right, let's build out of the back, and then we'll pass it back to them, and then we'll pass it back to the center back, and they'll pass it to the pivot, and then it goes back to the keeper, and then we pass it up to Bronico or somebody, and then they just hoof the ball down the field to nobody. I'm like, why did we just do that for the last minute? What are our tactics? What are we doing right now? Are we just passing to just a pass? What are we doing?
Right.
That's what it looks like a lot of times.
Are we just trying to, drain the time so we don't, lose as bad?
Well, teams know that we're doing that, and obviously New York's a pressing team anyways, but they just throw that high press on us, and it's like
1, 2, 3.
we forget completely how to pass the ball even remotely decently, and it's, like you were saying, Paul, it's to nobody. It's just, here, put it out there, someone come and get it.
Yeah, and New York actually plays that style a lot. I watched their other games, and they like to do that sometimes too. It's funny, like the home team loves all the possession, right? You see that in a lot of Major League Soccer team. When they're at home, they're like, all right, let's just pass the ball, let's dominate, let's get these Olays, but they're not really going anywhere with it. I'd rather be the counter-attacking team. You guys remember at the last World Cup when we played the Netherlands? They let us have the ball, right? And we got scared with the ball. We played hot potato with it, and they'd go on the counter-attack and make us look foolish, right? San Jose was doing the same thing to Toronto, the team that we're going to be playing on Saturday. San Jose was actually the home team. They let Toronto have that possession, and Toronto didn't know what to do with it, and San Jose somehow doesn't score. I don't know how Cade Cowell missed 2 wide open goals, but they were crushing them on the counterattack.
Yeah, I mean, teams could just let us have possession and just press the mess out of us, because we were having trouble, scoring, and go ahead, press us. We just got to be better against pressing teams. Easy to say, but yeah.
You got to pass.
If you can't score, let them have the ball.
And you would think that if you had that kind of possession, and what was the last game? Where we had like 74%? I mean, it was insane. Like you'll see, like Barcelona.
75%.
Okay, so this Sunday, Barcelona is going to play Elche, right? And it's like one of the worst teams against the top team in La Liga. And Barcelona is going to have that 75%. They're also going to win 5-0, right? We're not winning. What are we doing?
And how much does all of these, extra games, extra tournaments factor in? Does Latanzio have something in the back of his mind, like, we're not going full throttle yet because we have all these games to play? I'm just, kind of playing devil's advocate here. What do you guys think about that?
It's going to be tough when we start playing those U.S. Open Cup teams, because usually the first game you got to play on the road against a USL team. I believe we played against Richmond last year. Thankfully, we had a good performance, but sometimes you get those teams, and you see there was a team in the USL that went to the finals last year against Orlando. I mean, those teams are hungry to play against Major League Soccer players, and a lot of times, disrespect those leagues. They're going to roll out the whole team full of Bronicos, and these other teams are going to take advantage of it. There's going to be players that are playing in those divisions that think that they could play in the MLS, so they're going to come there and they're going to want to show out. I remember here, Matt and Carey, we have North Carolina FC, and we beat LA Galaxy 3 years in a row. The first 2 years, Bruce Arena brought a complete joke team. In the third year, he brought Landon Donovan, Juninho, he brought Robbie Keane, and still lost, right? Because sometimes the players, they have that passion, they look for those type of games. They'll get murked, 4-0 to some no-name team in the middle of northern Colorado. But when Charlotte comes to town, they're coming to play.
Yeah, it's like maybe a once in a lifetime opportunity for some of them.
It's their championship game.
Myles is back.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I've been listening, but yeah, I was saying like it's their championship game, right? Like we're probably playing our like subs in that situation against
And I
those
think
like
that's
teams.
the wrong way to do it. I think you should go there with a strong roster, especially. All right, let's keep it real, right? We're about to play 2 games on the road. I'd love to come back with 4 points, but probably not going to happen, right? U.S. Open Cup's going to be starting pretty soon. It's already started for these smaller teams, but eventually Major League Soccer is going to kind of creep in there. Why not try to win something like that? You don't have to win the league. Sometimes you'll see that teams that win cups don't always finish near the top of the tables in a lot of leagues.
Right. And that is going to bring us up to the next match, though. How we feel about going into Toronto? Like, I know it's going to be on the road. Maybe I've seen a rumor about there potentially being rain. Did anyone see that? I haven't checked it. Maybe I'm just lying right now, but I've seen something about that. But
Yeah, it's supposed to be very cold and very wet, I think is what they said.
well,
Very windy.
so is this going to be a 0-0 game? What are you feeling, Matt?
Yeah, to go to like an American football kind of analogy or whatever. Sometimes the rain or whatever, another, rain, wind, it could help the team who's not favored, kind of be that like X factor in the game. And if it's 30 something degrees and 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, I'm looking at it right now. I'm not sure what the temperature is supposed to be at game time, but if it's blowing 20 to 30 miles an hour and it's like flurrying or raining or whatever, like maybe this game comes down to who has like the mental toughness. Do we have more mental toughness than Toronto? Does this weather kind of like help us and maybe negate some of Toronto's attack or whatever? I know that. Let's see. I don't think Toronto's lost at home this year. Let's see. They tied Columbus 1-1. Beat Inter Miami 2-0. And let's see. So, and Columbus and Inter Miami, they're not top of the table teams, but I don't really know how to go with this.
Columbus beat Atlanta 6-1. That worries me. And they drew.
Yeah. But Atlanta had players, or Almada was on international duty, right?
At that time, yeah, I believe so.
But and I don't know what the games were like, Toronto versus Columbus, but this is hard, man. I'm gonna go 1-1 and hope that we get a point. That's my prediction.
All right.
The weather plays some kind of factor. Or you think it would have to with, wind, rain, possibly snow. So
I can definitely see
Matt.
it.
I'm right there with you with that 1-1 prediction. So I'm right there with you with that 1-1 prediction. I think it's going to be one of those, slog it out type games where it's just you're having to scrap for anything and everything. And then I honestly think that our favorite own goal shows back up. No, I don't know who's going to end up scoring it, but it'll probably we'll end up giving up one, and they'll end up giving up one, and we'll all go home with a point. It'll be something like that. It's going to be a tough game. I don't know how much the weather affects these guys at this point. It probably still does quite a bit, but it's going to be a difficult game, and I think we come out with at least a point. If we can sneak away with a 2-1 win or a 1-0 win, that'd be great. But I still think we only get by with the draw.
Let's score early and park the bus.
Put all 10 of them around either Marks or Cisniego, whoever it is. Just outline the 18-yard box.
Play a 10-1 formation.
Exactly.
Paul, what do you think about it?
Yeah, no problem. I've been thinking about this too. Team we've never beat in Major League Soccer. You guys all remember what happened last year when we went up there, and they were debuting their players fresh from Juventus, Bernardeschi and those guys, and they hammered us. I think it was 4-0, and Carujo had the own goal golazo in that game. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I was actually trying to forget about that, but thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Yeah.
So I didn't know we're going up, and the weather's going to play into their hands, right? They have a bunch of Canadians on their team that know, obviously, that type of weather. They play like that. They got Michael Bradley as their captain. Seems like he's played soccer for 50 years at this point. His dad is the coach. We all remember when he was the U.S. national team coach. He hasn't had a lot of success there. I know he built up LAFC a little bit after getting, canned at his last couple jobs, but they have a lot of talent on that team. I know that Insigne is injured and he won't be playing, but they still have Jonathan Osorio. He's going to be there. They still have Bernardeschi. He's amazing on the ball. He's very, very dangerous. You got to look out for him. They have some other guys too. They have like a Victor Vasquez. They have this young Canadian player, DeAndre Kerr. The guy's really special. I think he's going to be a very, very good player for them going forward. Another one of those type of players that is going to be eventually, in the Canadian camp. So it depends on how we come out there and look. I'm hoping for a 1-1 draw. It sucks that I'm hoping for a 1-1 draw, right? We'd hope that we'd win 3-0, but I got to be realistic. I feel like we're probably going to give up something really stupid. And Toronto's defense, I watched their last game against San Jose, and I've seen parts of some other games. Their defense has been shocking at times, right? And their keeper, Sean Johnson, he's kind of washed up. Remember he played a little bit for the U.S. He had like 10 or 11 caps for us. And he's played like 300-something games in Major League Soccer, but he's kind of bang average in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. They got a lot of talent on that team, and they're getting a lot of it back. They had a lot of guys that were on the international duty last week, and they're getting those guys back. So gotta keep Bernardeschi in check. I think that's the ultimate goal of the game, and hopefully we can unleash Melo in the last 10 minutes on them. Like that's when Wisconsin's gonna bring him in.
What's your prediction, Paul?
I was actually gonna say the same thing, 1-1. I think that's what it's gonna be. I think both teams will score a goal. The last game that they had against San Jose, they had 15 shots, only 2 were on target. They should have lost to San Jose. San Jose absolutely dominated the game, especially in the second half. They had all the chances. It was kind of like our second half against New York Red Bulls, except better. I don't know how Cade Cowell missed all those happens from the back post, but I feel like we can at least score on them, right? We do have Swiderski back. I'm hoping that he finally gets his first goal of the season. You saw in the game against Germany, not against Germany, against Albania, that he was able to score. Lewandowski was not able to score, so there's been some talk about that. Like, why is this guy scoring? That guy's not scoring. So hopefully that gives him that boost of confidence to step in and do something for us. 1-1 is what I'm going.
I hope so. Okay.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
I think. Now, hear me out. I projected that we were going to lose against Orlando, and we won. So, I think we're going to lose against Toronto. I think we're going to lose 3-2.
Scoring 2 goals?
Yeah, I say we score 2, and we give up 3. Own goal. Our star player's coming back this week. And going to score 2 games in a row. Own goal is one of the best goal scorers in the history of Charlotte. No, but I would like to see Swiderski come back and do well, because I think that he's like, maybe he gained confidence, right? Goes to Poland, scores a goal, gets that hype. Maybe he brings that back with him and he comes and scores here. I would love to see that, right? Like my liking and kind of like relationship with him has been a roller coaster for sure. But I would love to see him do well and be a goal scorer for us. And
Yeah, like it's time for him to step up. It's
Right.
time for him to do something.
he's done more than Uzbek, but he still would like to see him do more because I still feel like there's been players that aren't DPs that have done about as much, if not more, than he has. So
Myles,
So do we?
I'm sorry. One thing about Swiderski though is sometimes he gets over creative. You guys ever notice that? It's like he'll do that really cool back heel pass, but nobody's ready for it.
right,
You guys notice that? It seems like Melo would do those step overs and people know it's coming. Santos, he gets creative. Vargas obviously gets creative, but sometimes it's like Swiderski gets too creative for his own. He gets too cute on the ball. And I sometimes wish he would just maybe simplify it a little bit more because the guy has a deadly shot, right? He can really bang in some goals.
right.
I really see him do that.
Right.
And there was actually
Yeah.
Enzo did that a couple of times against New England in the very first game. We all noticed that as well. He would do a couple of those fancy back heel shots, and none of our other guys were ready for it. They were all just kind of there, not expecting something like that. They were just getting, like you said, they were overcomplicating it. Bring it back to the basics.
Yeah, just shoot.
Yep.
There's been so many times where just shoot, put it on net, and it
Shoot
might go
the
in.
ball.
Well, that
Just
was like,
shoot
well,
the ball.
who had it? Was it? I guess was it Brant? Bronico had it all the way down to the goal, and all he had to do was just earlier than what he even thought he had. He could have just put it right back, and I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Gaines or who it was that was right there behind him. I mean, it was.
Wasn't it Lindsay?
Was it Lindsay?
a
Well,
3-on.
Lindsay had the
It was-
bad header, and then I think Brant
What-
was like he should have. He tried to pass, but he passed too late.
It was way too late. Like he was waiting and waiting and waiting. It was just over. Just make that pass. Like it was there. It was wide open.
He went down the right wing, remember that? And there was a guy to his left, and I think it was Santos. And it was something like he could have just laid it off to him, and we had a 2-on-1 in the box, which would have probably been an easy goal. And Bronico just kept going with it, and then he tried to ground cross it, and it just went right to the keeper. It was like, come on, dude.
Right.
That's the thing is we get to the box and we panic, right? And we do it on both sides, right? And our
Exactly.
own defensive, we panic, and then we just, you see it a lot at this level in Major League Soccer, right? Like these defenders they panic like crazy. I was watching the CONCACAF, what is it? The
Nations League.
Nations
Oh no, what's the other one? The one that the club's playing, like the
Champions,
the Champions
CONCACAF Champions League. Yeah.
Yeah, the Champions League. Yeah, when I think of Champions League, I think of Europe. But our version of it, right? Austin was playing on the road against a no-name team in Haiti, and they were getting ashed by that team. But it's a no-name team in Haiti, right? They lost 3-0, and the third goal, the ball fell right to their defender, and he could have just easily dribbled it out. And instead, he panicked and kicked the ball, and he kicked it into the upper corner. I was like, what? Into his own net.
Oh,
I was like, what
my.
are you doing? Like players panic so much on the MLS, and I think you see it a lot in the box too. Bronico panics, and then Capetti, he could have easily had the one where he turned, he had the defender beat, and he could have left foot shot it, hopefully far post. I think he has enough skill to do that. Instead, he passed it back, and then Gaines is like, "Oh, I'm going to make this shot," and then it went to outer space like a field goal. I mean, it was terrible, and it's like, so, as a fan watching it, it can be very frustrating.
Right.
So what kind of if we can talk about maybe like a predicted lineup or predicted formation, do we see Carroll Vargas and Melo and Capetti being on the field at the same time, like some kind of a 4-4-2 or whatever? What do you guys think about that?
I think so. I think
Does it-
you put kind of Swiderski and Capetti forward. Maybe you have Capetti at the striker. I think Swiderski takes over the right wing. Vargas left wing, and then I could see is Melo kind of playing like a cam or like a right mid sort of position.
But he might be the super sub.
That too. I mean, I could definitely see
And you can't leave Santos on the bench. I mean, Santos would have to be that middle guy for me.
Mhm.
I could see that.
especially with Bronico out.
Well,
and,
yeah, with Barnica, yeah, for sure. But I do
and
think Melo
Westwood,
could
right?
play that right mid as well. Yeah, Westwood's out.
Oh, I forgot that Bronico was out. Maybe we might win the game. Let me see. Do I need to change my
Right. If we do win, that's gonna say a lot. To be honest with you.
It seems like subtraction is becoming addition this season.
I
Less
wonder
is
if the
more.
midfield. I wonder if the midfield is like Nuno, Derek Jones, and who am I missing?
Melo maybe.
Maybe Melo.
Or
Now I
Bender.
did see some stuff that was interesting last week on Twitter was sliding Derek Jones back to that position where Byrne played last week and putting him beside Melanda to have two of these incredibly tall bodies back there. I don't know how that would work. I don't know where you would move those other pieces. Obviously, I don't think now that would work at all with Bronico being out. Jones is probably going to have to be in that middle. What other ways? And I guess that takes him out of his position as well, which I guess is the the Christian Latanzio way. What are some things you think you could do as far as movement to people? Again, maybe they're not in their natural position, but something like that, maybe dropping a Jones back or moving someone somewhere. What do you think you could see Latanzio doing?
I mean, I could see him doing that. I mean, obviously we're really missing Carujo right now, right? That we're talking
Right.
about this type of thing. And then, when we look, we got Sobocinski on the bench. Who knows if he can really hang at that level up there in Toronto? I think he'll struggle, as we've seen. But Byrne, I mean, again, he's small, right? And we all saw what he did, and it scares me that he's going to do something like that again. It's definitely frustrating. I wouldn't mind trying, even if we took a loss. I wouldn't mind experimenting with things like that. Having those two big players. Remember, Melanda is also kind of he's got a lot of talent, but he's still raw, right? He's still
Right.
growing, right? He's going to
Yeah.
be called up, I guess, with like the French, what is it, the U20 team or something like that. So he has a lot of potential, but we all saw when he made that blunder, I believe it was against St. Louis, and passed the ball backwards and gave him that 3 goals. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we got to just try to keep the ball forward as much as possible. Stop with all this backward passing. Keep it forward. Let's put the foot on the gas for a change.
Exactly.
That's why I
Yeah,
think.
we gotta.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, or just we gotta we gotta find ways to just like hold the ball, in the, in the opponent half, and not, the back passing. We need people like that's what I like about Melo, and and Vargas. It's like they're not afraid to go 1v1. We just need players that can hang on to the ball, in the opponent, in the attacking third. Just people that are strong on the ball, because if we lose it or somebody's not confident, then it's probably going to be recycled.
Yeah, do you think like a Bernadeschi or somebody, they're going to steal that pass? It's going to be an automatic goal, right? We're going to be screwed on. The guy who scored against us, Elias Manuel for New York Red Bulls, he has 3 career goals in Major League Soccer, and all 3 have come against Charlotte.
Yeah, that's a disgusting stat that you don't like.
Do you think Latanzio puts Byrne back at center back?
No. I think we've seen the last of that. Hopefully, anyway. I could see Jones doing it. Like when you were speaking about that earlier, I could see Jones going back to be that center mid. Center back. And then keep Lindsay, Melanda, and Awful in. And then I think Swiderski goes back to his kind of role. Kind of like a right wing-ish position. Vargas in kind of a left wing-ish position. Capetti striker. And then you have kind of Santos and Melo kind of playing like a center mid cam hybrid sort of, kind of in between. That's what I kind of think.
I think the blueprint to beating them is just play that really quick counter, and you want to play those guys that are pacey and shifty and can really get the ball up the field. I mean, that's San Jose was just destroying Toronto on that.
Right.
Like their defense is not that good, right? This is a team we could actually score on. So, and their goalkeeper is very mid. So,
Could be a gains in. Sorry, I was just saying like could be gains. Not necessarily. I don't think that he's like starter quality, especially right now. But definitely for speed wise, I mean he has that. And just I mean if they play it right, because like of course the whole point of putting him in would be to stretch the defense. But if they're not going to like play some sin balls, or try something like that.
The only thing with him is his shooting kind of is a lot left to be desired, right? If you see
Oh yeah.
That for me, that's my biggest complaint about McKenzie game.
Right.
Yeah, if he could finish, wow.
It'd be different, right?
Yeah. It'd be a completely different story, but
it's also crazy. It seems like this time last year, or maybe a little bit later. Remember when we got Shin Yoshiki? Who did we get him? We got him in the summer. We got him after 10 games. What was it?
It was our game at home against Inter Miami. It was actually my first game that I attended for Charlotte FC. I think it was sometime in May, maybe.
So maybe about a month ahead, and he was coming in and dicing it. We're like, oh, this dude's really good. Where was he at, Colorado or something? Why were they just kind of like walk? And we thought, oh man, this guy's got a lot of talent. And he was even saying, I'm going to a place that wants me and believes in me. And boy, he's just falling off the map. Huh? I mean, to me, he hasn't looked great either.
Yeah, he's had moments. It's like our guys have moments. We need more consistency. We need more consistency. That's what I can say. Not one player has a great game and then the next game they fall off. And then, it's kind of like they're up and down, up and down, up and down. If we can just, string good performances together, I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, we need consistency with their, with the play. And I mean, it's like, that's just how it seems like it goes with Charlotte FC. Like one player has a great game, the next game it's like sell him.
Nice to have that Almada on our team, right? It seems like every time he plays for Atlanta, he's just putting screamers in the net. He's having an amazing game, right?
Crazy free kick.
But yeah, speaking of all these good players, that introduces the newest segment of Knights of the Crown Table podcast. And Kyle, would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, certainly. So this is our Knights of the Crown Table deliberation. This is where we come together to discuss things. And I thought it'd be a good idea for us to, quote unquote, seat a player at the table each week. It could be someone that you think is going to be the X factor. It's going to be someone that you think is going to be that one that's going to, really lead us into, a win this week, or it's going to be the most important player this week. So, I want you to think about who would you knight or who would you seat at that table for us. And, I can go ahead and start and kick it off with who I think it's going to be. And, I got to go with my guy. I got to go with Brent Bron. I'm just kidding. I'm not going with Brent Bronico. I think it's actually going to be, for me, I know there's some other picks out there, but I'm going to say Kerwin Vargas. I think he has the opportunity to be an absolute X factor this week. He could actually be one of those, if you think about it with, talking about Toronto's defense and, if we can get that counterattack, he could have that game that Danny Rios had last year towards the end of the season where, he was just like goal after goal after goal. Kerwin has that ability to do that. If we could just, get him the ball and have him, shoot when he's got it, I think he has a chance to be an X factor. And he's kind of, hung below or under the radar a little bit. A ton of attention hadn't been on him because we've been looking at Enzo and we've been looking at Swiderski. I think he has the ability this week to maybe even make some huge goals. So I don't know who wants to go next, but who do you think is going to be your X factor this week?
For me, I'm going to have to go with Karol Swiderski. We had talked about him earlier. He's coming off his international duties where he scored a big goal for his country. I think he's kind of living in the moment for that. I want to see him bring it back to the club level. One of the first things we were talking about is Karol Swiderski, 4 goals in 4 games, and he's got no goals so far. I think this is the game he needs to come in, put the greedy goggles on, and score some goals for us. And I think he can. I think right now his confidence is going to be very high. Like I said, right now the media over there is saying, why can't Lewandowski score and you got this guy scoring? He's got a chip on his shoulder. I'd love for him to go up there to Toronto, get some goals for us, play well, and have a good game. That's who I'd put it.
Yeah, I think the same thing, Paul. I originally had Melo, but I did change it. I wrote down Swiderski just because, it's his time to do something. So I'm going to knight Karol, and so that's what I'm going with, because it's just time for him to step up and score a goal or two for us.
I agree with both of those too. I think that they're both very good options for that, but I think I'm going to choose the person who is probably one of the more underrated players that we've had during this kind of improvement streak, and I'm going to go with George Marks. I feel like he's been such a solid goalkeeper for us since he's came on. And
he's been good.
And we've not talked about him a lot, and that's a great thing, because that means he's not making a lot of those mistakes, I feel like the goal, especially in the last one, he gave up was not his fault at all. And then even if you count the one against Orlando that he gave up, there was plenty of saves that he was very he was just spot on. He's been one of the best players in the lineup every week that he's been there, and I really think that he's been kind of under the radar as a star for us currently. But I think George Marks is going to be that X factor for us. And if he plays well, granted with a good defense that doesn't give up free goals, I think that we have a good chance of getting a draw, even that win, even though I predicted that we lost. Just that's for, jinxing it. But, I think that George Marks is definitely that's who I would knight for this week.
Now since you've said that, Myles, that Pablo's starting now, right? That's going to happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Kalina's coming out, too. It's going to be hilarious. Yeah, if Pablo starts, that's going to be interesting. But now that I've said that, we'll see what happens.
I don't see how Diego starts after the last 2 performances. No. Especially the second half against Orlando when things got really dicey, he kept us in the game. And that goal that he gave up was not his fault at all. He made the original save, right? But there was just nobody right there. The defender was not there marking their guy. And there's, the ball spilled out right to him. And of course, the last game when Nathan Byrne, when he had his blunder, there's nothing that Marks really could have done on that play either. So, in my opinion, he definitely is kind of an X factor. And that's a guy who's been great everywhere he's been so far. He's a young player. He actually came up through the academy right here in Cary, North Carolina, through the North Carolina SD Academy, played with the youth system. Then he went to Clemson, won national title down there. He was very successful and comes to us. So this is a guy that's kind of been decorated everywhere he's been. And you see he's really holding it down right now.
See, there you go. We have our new American North Kakalaki kid. All right. Monaco out. George Marks.
Brand who?
Brand who? Yeah. What's
Captain of Crown Legacy.
Right. And his initials is GM. So we've been talking about needing a new GM.
Hey, there he is right there.
That's what I'm saying. GM. This is the way.
So funny that you say initials because Christian Latantio's initials is kind of like CLT if you put it together, right?
Yeah.
It works out.
Yeah, if you add terrible to the end of his name, it's CLT.
Oh, because you think it's the Tangio part. I'm talking about, where you put the Tangio. NFC. So.
Right. No, I got you. But hopefully that works. But any final thoughts going in, looking ahead to the Mats versus Toronto, or Toe, as I accidentally put in that one group chat? I was trying to put TOR and I put TOE.
Bring some warm clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bundle up. Get those.
I will say, ownership group that owns it also, I believe, owns the Leafs. So hopefully they're just too busy thinking about their playoffs and Maple Leafs bet. They forget about FC Toronto, whatever.
Good.
Toronto FC or FC Toronto? What is it for them? Toronto FC, right?
Toronto.
Yeah, I believe it's Toronto FC.
Okay. I want to make sure I get it correct. I don't want the Toronto guys to be upset with me now.
Yeah, Toronto FC. That's right.
Got you.
Oh, yeah, looking good there. But I think that is going to be it for us this week. Best of luck to the team this week. We hope everybody's watching. We appreciate y'all for listening and sharing and telling people about us. We really appreciate the love and all the follows and everything that we've got recently. We are excited for the future and to keep this rolling. And let's hope we continue this point streak and extend it to 3 games of points. But thank you. I have enjoyed having you all here with us. Glad to have Paul on the podcast, and we'll see if we can get this group back together next week. But thanks again for everybody listening, and thank you for joining us as we are the Knights of the Crown Table.
Let's go, Charlotte.